I don't know, it's kind of like Christmas Eve. There's nothing quite like watching your target deer with a beautiful sunrise or sunset in the valleys, in the coulees, the night before opening morning. And I've been watching this deer for the past few days, morning and night. He doesn't go far. I find him right where I leave him every time. And the more I look at him, the more excited I get. Last night I was dreaming about him. He's a gorgeous character deer. You just don't find them like that very often. And I could just sit there and look at him for hours through the Vortex spotting scope. It's gonna be an exciting morning. They're calling for good wind. It's just a matter of where they decide to bed and what they want to do. We're gonna try our best. But for now, I'm just gonna sit and watch and enjoy them. Even if we don't kill them, just being able to watch a deer like this for the last couple days is pretty special, especially with sunsets like this.
I had the privilege of spending 3 full days watching and studying this deer before the season opened. But it wasn't until that 3rd day that I realized that this wasn't my first encounter with him. It had taken me a while to draw the connection because he had changed so much from last year, but he still held on to many of his distinguishing features. A small drop tine out near the tip of his main beam and an inward splitting G4 on the same side. There was no doubt about it. This was the deer that we had called Droppy from the year before. He had lost a lot of his fork length, but added several more points and a ton of mass. We only had one encounter with him last year in the first week of September, and after blowing him out, I never laid eyes on him again until almost exactly a year later. I knew that this year was going to be no different, and I would only get one opportunity before he crawled into a hole and vanished, so I had to make it count.
Just an unbelievable deer. He's got 10 points on his left antler and 5 on the other. His forks aren't crazy impressive, but the mass and the character on him is unbelievable. He's smart. He's gonna be tough to kill, but that's the deer that I want to go after. Either until we get him, or until we push him out of the country. Hopefully it's the first one. I still don't know what deer that was. I've been down here for the last 3 days in this bowl looking, and I've seen what I thought was every deer. And we came in this morning, the opening day, and we found the deer that we're after, Droppy, immediately. But then we were glassing down at the bottom, and there's another giant framed, big, typical 4x4. A no-brainer for anybody. So we're kind of watching both of them, and we're going to see which one beds in a better spot and see which one we can make a better play on and just play it smart and not push it. If that deer beds down at the bottom, like he looks like he wants to do, he's in trouble. That's a dangerous spot to bed. It's 9:30, so we've been out here for close to 3 hours already. Over 3 hours. We found the deer that we were after, Droppy. Almost immediately he was bedded, and we watched him, and it took him a long time before he finally got up, bedded again. In the meantime, we watched another good deer. He went up and bedded, and now Droppy finally got up and disappeared into a little crevice or a little crack. So we're gonna, in order to see him, we actually have to go up over the top and do a little bit of a circle around him and try to get eyes on him, and then see. He's not in the best spot depending on how close he is to the hill with the wind direction, but if we do end up easing on in, we're gonna have to just go slow, and if we feel the wind starting to shift at all, then we're gonna have to just back out. But it might be all right. I don't know. We're gonna give it a try, but I don't want to push him, so if it's not good at all, if it's getting shifty, then we're just gonna back out. But we gotta go see if we can lay eyes on him in his bed.
Fatal Impact is proudly sponsored by Top Grade Construction, Black Widow Innovations, Vortex Optics, Covert Scouting Cameras, Old Smokes Coffee, and the Municipal District of Bonnyville. This segment of Fatal Impact is brought to you by DELUXE Waltons, built in Canada for Canadian conditions. This segment of Fatal Impact is brought to you by Vortex, the force of optics.
One of the things I absolutely hate the most about hunting in public land, we spent all morning watching this deer. It's now almost noon. We finally put him to bed, waited for the wind, got into a position where we're ready to stalk him. And who comes over the hill but those two guys, 100% upwind. And they just proceed to see me, sit down, pull out their spotting scopes, and stare at us. And then, once they realize that we're going after them, they continue walking up the coulee, more upwind, and in clear view of the deer. So, I don't know how he didn't blow out, but I'm pretty sure he saw them. So, he's just kinda probably 150 yards, maybe. He's right at the bottom of the coulee, or of the little tiny creek, so we're gonna try and wind our way up there and get under 30 in this wind, hopefully.
As frustrating as it may be, I suppose that it's all just a part of hunting public land. I tried to not let it get the best of me, and we worked our way along the creek toward them. They had up and left, and I returned my focus to Droppy. I knew that we were only going to get one shot at this, and this was a perfect opportunity. We had closed in to less than 30 yards and were just about to sit up when I glanced up and my entire world came crashing down. Less than 100 yards away, directly in front of Droppy and straight upwind, came the two hunters down the hill, right into his lap.
Seriously? You've gotta be kidding me. How rude can they be?
Whether they did it on purpose or by accident, I guess I'll never really know for sure. But that's not really the point. I suppose it's just a consequence of sharing the land with fellow hunters. Sooner or later, we'll all run into it. It's just a part of the game. But for me, it didn't change the fact that he was gone. As I watched him explode over the hill after being surrounded, my mind flashed back to last year when I watched him erupt from his bed and disappear for the rest of the season. I knew that the odds of ever seeing that deer again were slim. Instead, he would return to his home where he had survived for so many years without hardly ever being seen. My heart was crushed. I knew that I couldn't spend the rest of the season praying for him to return, and I had to carry on with my hunt. Although I wanted that particular deer more than any other, I tried to push him from my mind and look forward.
The road ahead, it twists and turns, and the sun beats down and it burns. But I keep on pushing through.
As tough as it was to do, I had to turn my attention to other deer. And 2 days after blowing Droppy out of the country, we had found another one of the giant bucks that we had history with. We had hunted him last fall but couldn't seal the deal, and he had grown substantially. So maybe this was our chance.
Not nearly as windy down here, so took the boots off early and we're gonna keep going in.
Love lifts me back to solid ground. Yeah, I get up and I may fall right back down, but your love lifts me back to solid ground. And oh, I've come
He was bedded in a tough spot, and it was a slow, painful stalk. The wind wasn't great, and we knew that it was going to be tough to get a shot at him. When they finally stood up and started feeding towards the top, I found my window and I took it.
It's the one in the middle. It's facing away from us. Stop. There's no way, dude. Just took hair off his back. My 40 was right on him. That shot was good. I can't believe this.
Fatal Impact is proudly sponsored by WHEATON Supercentre, Deluxe Wall Tents, Top Notch Taxidermy, ExileOutdoors.com, Victory Archery, and Hornady Ammunition. This segment of Fatal Impact is brought to you by Top Grade Construction in Lloydminster, Alberta. This segment of Fatal Impact is brought to you by the MD of Bonnyville. Lake adventures happen here.
Honestly, I didn't know where to go from here. First, I had to watch as Droppy ran into the next area code, likely to never be seen again. And then, I missed a golden opportunity on a giant old buck that seemed to have my number. We were only 3 days into the season, but I was ready to throw in the towel. Mentally, I was a wreck. Over the past 4 years, giant muley bucks had absolutely kicked my butt. But it had to change eventually, right? With nothing left to lose, and not really being sure where to go next, we decided to bike back into the bowl where we had found Droppy, praying that for some reason, he had decided to come back. I knew the odds were small, but maybe my luck was beginning to change. As I quickly scanned the side hills with my Vortex spotter, I couldn't believe who I was seeing. He had come back only 3 days later, and it looked like he had just shed his velvet in the last 12 hours.
We've been chasing this stupid deer since 6 a.m. this morning. Every time I look at him, he's on his feet. Coyotes chase him. Doe goes walking by, he gets up, moves. We can't take our eyes off him for 2 seconds, and he moves. So I was sitting there, just watching him, and then I looked up, and there was cows coming over the top. They weren't running, they were just marching down to the reservoir for water. And they got halfway down the side hill, and the doe that was with them stood up, looked back, seen the cows marching, the same cows that they literally live with every day, and bounced away, and Droppy got up and went with her, and now they went up to the top piece of brush and bedded in there with 2 other bucks and probably the rest of the country. And I've been running back and forth. I'm tired. I'm dehydrated. And I'm beyond frustrated. But we have no choice but to stalk them now, because either we blow them out on the way to the truck or the bikes. We can't get to the bikes without blowing them out. So we might as well stalk them.
It definitely wasn't how I wanted it to happen, and I had very little confidence in the stalk. The wind was marginal at best, and he was in a super tough spot. But at this point, we had nothing left to lose.
Stay on. Stay on him. He's leaking. He's pouring. He's pouring. Stay on him. He's bedded. He's bedded. He was pouring blood.
Fatal Impact is proudly sponsored by Dory River Outfitters, Phone Scope, Matthews Archery, Wapiti River Outdoors, iHunter, and Scree Gear. This segment of the show is brought to you by WHEATON Supercentre, a proud supporter of our outdoor heritage. This segment of Fatal Impact is brought to you by Dory River Outfitters, Saskatchewan's premier bear destination.
Stay on. Stay on him. He's pouring. He's pouring. Stay on him. He's bedded. He's bedded. He was pouring blood. Let's go take a look at him. We actually just walked up. I could see his antlers sticking out, and then it kind of started to set in. So this was the deer I wanted. And it's kind of hard to believe that he's there. Let's go see what he looks like. Oh, boy, he made it into the worst possible spot. We're gonna have to drag him out of here and get a better look at him, but look at that deer. I can't even put my hand around him. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points on that side and 5 on that side. Exactly what I figured. I'd spent so much time watching this deer, and now I get to look at him forever. Look at the size of that deer. I had spent close to, I want to say 10 days looking for and watching this deer. Betcha I found him 6 or 7 out of those 10 days. We had an opportunity at him on the opener, and we unfortunately got busted out by 2 other hunters. And you know what? I didn't think we were ever going to see him again. We came back in a couple days ago just to look at some of the other deer that were in here, and I couldn't believe it, but he was back. He had shed his velvet, and he came back home. And at that point, I knew we were probably only going to get one more chance at him, and he bedded in much better spots. And as you guys seen, we were able to move in and right at the end of the day put an arrow in him, and that is definitely the coolest deer I think I've ever seen personally with my own eyes. And I never ever actually thought I'd have
be able to hold him and look at him for the rest of my life.
Walking up to this buck, there wasn't much that I could say. It had been a rough 4 years of bow hunting for me, and I had put in my time. But when it all came together, I was rewarded with perhaps the coolest buck that I'd ever personally laid my eyes on. He was an ancient old warrior of the prairies, and a deer that most people dream about late at night. And I guess for me, I'm fortunate to be able to spend the rest of my life looking at him and reliving those memories.